When Karoline Leavitt walked into the luxury hotel her husband owned, exhausted from weeks in Washington, seeking rest, anonymity, and quiet, she never imagined she'd be denied service by a receptionist who thought progressive values meant picking and choosing who deserves a room. What started as a simple check-in turned into a public confrontation. But what came after the conflict? Well, that's where the Real story begins. Before we dive in, help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers by hitting that like button and subscribing now. Your support means the world and keeps stories like this alive. The chandeliers sparkled like stars across the ceiling of the Rio Grande. The lobby was a portrait of elegance. Polished stone floors, hushed voices, and the kind of scent that whispered wealth. It was the perfect place for Karoline Leavitt to disappear for a few days. She didn't come with an entourage. No makeup crew, no aides, no press. Just herself, a weekend bag, and a fake name, Karoline Wilson. A name meant to keep attention away. After all, being a former White House press secretary wasn't exactly helpful when trying to go unnoticed. But peace is a fragile thing. Behind the front desk stood Avery, blue-dyed streaks in her hair, earbuds still hanging in one ear, and a phone glowing in her palm as she scrolled through a progressive meme page. Her face looked like she wanted to be anywhere else, except maybe the next protest march. Karoline stepped forward. "Hi," she said calmly. "I have a reservation under Karoline Wilson." Avery barely looked up. She glanced at Karoline once, paused, and then blinked again. Something clicked. That golden hair, that voice. The woman she'd rolled her eyes at on TV, the conservative with the cool stare and precise words. You're Karoline Leavitt, right? Avery asked, her tone a little too sweet. Trump's press girl. Karoline kept her tone even. "No, I'm Karoline Wilson. Please check the reservation." Avery gave a plastic smile. "Sure. Let's take a look." Her fingers tapped the keyboard. Slowly, lazily, her lips curled as her eyes flicked over the screen. "I'm not seeing anything," she said after a pause. "Sometimes the system takes a while to update. We prioritize open-minded guests first, you know." The word hung there like smoke. Open-minded. Karoline's gaze sharpened. "Excuse me?" Avery smiled wider. "It's just our culture here. We like to keep a vibe that's welcoming, progressive, inclusive." A quiet tension started to hum beneath the chandeliers. Karoline didn't blink. "I have a confirmation email. Suite 1401. Can you check again?" Avery leaned forward slightly, as if to appear helpful, but her voice held something else. A tone just a shade too smug. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. It's not showing up. You sure you booked it right? Some guests just don't fit our environment." Karoline's eyes didn't leave hers. "Are you saying I don't fit because of who I am?" Avery leaned on the counter, chin lifted. "I'm just saying we try to protect this space. We don't like conflict or outdated views." That was it. The subtle wall dropped. Karoline inhaled deeply. She was in the White House briefing room, but suddenly it felt just like one. She pulled out her phone and tapped to open the reservation. She turned the screen toward Avery. Confirmed at 2:32 p.m. Karoline Wilson, Suite 1401. Avery glanced, then shrugged. Could be a glitch. Or maybe someone changed it. It happens. There was a pause. Karoline leaned forward. Her voice was low and dangerous now. Changed by who? Avery tilted her head. Maybe someone noticed a mismatch between the guest and the kind of space we're building here. The room felt colder, even beneath the warm lighting. Guests in the lobby were beginning to glance their way. No one spoke, but the silence had a weight to it. A weight that was building. If you're watching this and thinking, wait, did that receptionist just delete a paying guest reservation because she recognized her politics? You're not alone, and you're going to want to stick around to see how Karoline responds. And hey, while we're here, drop a comment below and let us know what city you're watching from. We love seeing how far these stories reach. Back at the desk, Karoline took a step back. Not in retreat, but strategy. Her fingers moved quickly on her phone as she dialed someone she trusted more than anyone in the building. "Josh," she said calmly when the line connected, "I need you to access the Rio Grande's internal system. Look under the front desk log. Username Avery. I want to see the activity history for the last hour." Avery froze. Karoline didn't look at her. She just stepped aside and waited. Her eyes stayed locked on the screen. Avery's fingers clenched the counter. "You're seriously doing this?" Karoline turned her head slowly. "I'm seriously tired of people like you pretending progress means punishing people like me. So yes, I'm doing this." Avery's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Karoline's phone buzzed. She looked down at the screen. Josh's message had just come through. Reservation for Karoline Wilson, Suite 1401, confirmed at 2:32 p.m. Deleted manually at 5:18 p.m. by user Avery L. 5:15 p.m. Search Karoline Leavitt in guest system by same user. Karoline smiled. She turned the screen toward Avery. Her voice, now deadly calm, filled the space between them like a warning shot. "Do you want to try explaining this before I do it for you?" Avery's face turned pale. The first move had been made, but this was far from over. Avery stared at the screen in Karoline's hand. For a split second, her eyes scanned the evidence. Her lips parted, then pressed into a thin, nervous line. That could be a glitch," she muttered, voice shaky now. "Systems act weird all the time." You didn't," Karoline interrupted, her voice low, sharp, and precise. "You searched my real name and deleted the reservation 3 minutes later. Are you seriously going to lie about that with your name still logged in the system?" Avery's fingers curled over the desk edge. Her confidence was slipping fast. I was just checking something," she said. "It wasn't personal. Maybe I clicked the wrong thing." Karoline stepped forward again, slow and deliberate, her phone still glowing between them like a courtroom exhibit. "I don't believe in coincidences. And I definitely don't believe you clicked the wrong thing 3 minutes after Googling me." Around them, the lobby had gone almost silent. Conversations had stopped. Even the background music felt quieter, like the building itself was listening. "You think you're standing up for something," Karoline continued, her tone cooler now, calculated. "But what you really did was decide, on your own, that I didn't deserve service because I think differently than you." Avery's voice dropped to a whisper. I didn't want to let someone like you stay here." Karoline blinked. "Someone like me?" she repeated. "Do you hear yourself?" Avery's eyes darted toward the back office. She was looking for help, but none was coming. "I didn't think it would matter," she said. "You're rich, famous, connected. You'll be fine." "You think this is about me being fine?" Karoline said. "It's about the fact that you turned my husband's hotel into your own personal political protest." She lifted the phone to her ear again. "Josh, can you send me a PDF copy of the system log? I want it on paper." "Already emailed," he replied. "Good." Avery opened her mouth again, trying to find some footing, but the room was slipping out of her control. "I have rights too," she said quickly. "I'm allowed to speak up. This is a free country." Karoline tilted her head slightly, studying her. "Yes, you have rights," she said, "but you were hired to check guests in, not check their politics. There's a difference between free speech and targeted discrimination. You crossed that line." A middle-aged man nearby, holding a newspaper and coffee, shook his head and muttered under his breath, "She's toast." A young couple with backpacks whispered quietly near the elevators, one of them already pulling out their phone to record. The atmosphere was no longer tense. It was electric, and Karoline wasn't backing down. She tapped her phone again, swiping through the evidence. Avery spoke up, her voice rising now in desperation. "I didn't know you were his wife." "Oh, so it would have been fine if I wasn't." Karoline shot back. "Just a regular woman with a political past you don't like. And that makes me unworthy of basic hospitality?" "That's not what I meant," Avery whispered. "But that's exactly what you did." A hush fell again. Then, the soft echo of firm footsteps broke it. Polished shoes clicked against the marble floor. Every head turned as Nicholas Rio walked through the front doors. Tall, composed, gray suit pressed to perfection. His silver-streaked hair and steady gaze made people instinctively step aside. The moment Avery saw him, her posture stiffened. She looked like someone who'd just realized the test she skipped turned out to be her final grade. Nicholas stopped at the desk, eyes locking first on Karoline, then on Avery. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice deep and even. Karoline handed him the phone, showing the reservation log. Your front desk employee deleted my reservation because she didn't like who I was. Nicholas read the screen, his jaw tightening. He turned to Avery. Is this real? Sir, I didn't mean to. It was a system glitch or maybe someone. I didn't ask what you meant to do, he said, his voice suddenly cold. I asked if this is real. Avery swallowed hard, unable to find a single excuse that would work now. Karoline remained still, composed, letting the facts speak. In the lobby? It was now fully tuned in. Phones were out. A few employees peeked from behind corners. The crowd was watching, silent, tense, waiting for the verdict. Nicholas looked again at the screen. Deleted at 5:18 p.m. by Avery. He took a deep breath. Then he looked directly at her. You're done, he said. Avery's face collapsed. What? You can't fire me for this. I was protecting the brand. You thought wrong, Nicholas said sharply. This hotel doesn't exist for you to wage political battles. It exists to serve guests. And you failed the most basic task. But I was just doing what I believed in, she pleaded. Nicholas raised a brow. You believe in refusing service to a paying guest because you didn't like her views? She's Karoline Leavitt, Avery snapped. She represents everything we're fighting against. She's also my wife, he replied, voice flat. Avery took a step back like she'd been slapped. The tension in the room shifted again, this time into disbelief. A murmur spread. Someone whispered, she didn't know. Nicholas stepped forward slightly. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, he said. If you treat people unfairly under my roof, you're gone. Karoline added, her voice now colder than ever. And don't think this ends with you. The system that allowed you to do this without oversight needs fixing. Now, Nicholas nodded. I want the manager out here. Now, he told a nearby bellhop, who quickly darted away. Avery stood frozen, speechless, as the gravity of her actions finally caught up to her. And while she may have believed she was making a political statement, what she made instead was a very public mistake. If you believe people should be treated fairly, no matter what side they're on, take a second now to hit the subscribe button. We're sharing real stories that matter. And with your help, we're on our way to reaching 1,000 subscribers. Back in the lobby, the mood had shifted. Karoline stood calmly beside her husband, the glowing phone still in hand. The evidence wasn't just digital. It was undeniable. And the hotel staff? They weren't just watching anymore. They were rethinking everything. The marble floors seemed to reflect the weight of the moment as the bellhop returned, pale-faced and anxious. He's on his way, the young man stammered. Mr. Hensley, he's coming from the back office. Nicholas didn't respond. He kept his eyes locked on Avery, whose face had drained of color entirely. Her fingers gripped the counter for balance. The phones recording around her only made her smaller, more exposed, more fragile. You can't do this, she said again, but it came out barely louder than a whisper. Karoline turned slightly, arms crossed, voice steady and controlled. You did this, Avery. No one else. You don't get to turn progress into a shield for bigotry. The double doors behind the front desk creaked open. Out stepped Mark Hensley, the manager. Mid-50s, wrinkled gray suit, eyes already wide as he scanned the scene in front of him. Sweat dotted his forehead as he approached slowly. Mr. Rio, Miss Leavitt, he said, forcing a nervous smile. I just heard something happened. Is there a problem? Nicholas's jaw tightened. He said nothing. Karoline didn't wait. A problem? She echoed, her tone crisp. Your employee refused me service, deleted my reservation, and did it proudly because she didn't like my politics. Mark blinked hard, swallowing the panic rising in his throat. I didn't know that. I had no idea. Nicholas's voice cut in, deep and sharp. You didn't know? You're the manager. And this happened in the middle of your lobby. Mark's head lowered slightly. I was in back office. I didn't see it. I trust the staff to follow policy. Well, they didn't, Karoline snapped. And you let them run wild. I didn't enable this, Mark said quickly. Avery's new. She's strong-willed. I thought she'd adjust. Adjust, Karoline repeated, her voice cutting through the air like a blade. She made my husband's hotel a platform for her personal crusade. Mark nodded, palms up, trying to calm the storm. I'll look into it. I'll speak with her, review the training, and... Nicholas raised a hand to silence him. You're already behind, Mark, he said, voice heavy with disappointment. This happened under your nose, and the only reason it's being addressed is because we showed up. That's not management. That's neglect. Mark opened his mouth to defend himself, but stopped. There was nothing he could say. Not with the log still glowing on Karoline's screen. Not with the crowd of guests watching. And not with Avery standing a few feet away, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. She was just protecting the brand, Mark said finally, grasping for a lifeline. We have employees passionate about diversity and fairness. I didn't want to create conflict by pushing back too hard. Karoline stepped forward, voice low but burning. She refused service to a guest because of her personal beliefs. That's not fairness. That's hypocrisy. She's right. A voice called out from the crowd. A man in a dark suit, arms crossed, standing near the coffee bar. I wouldn't want my wife treated like that. A few others nodded silently. One woman whispered, that could have been me. Mark's shoulders sank slightly, the weight of his failure crashing down. I didn't mean for this to happen, he murmured. I was just trying to keep the peace. Karoline's stare was unrelenting. Peace isn't ignoring problems until they blow up in your lobby, Mark. Peace is leadership. Peace is setting standards and enforcing them. She turned slightly to Nicholas. You want to give him another chance? Nicholas studied Mark in silence for a moment. The room waited. Then he spoke, slow and cold. You'll get one shot. One. Mark nodded quickly. Thank you. Thank you both. I swear I'll. Karoline raised a finger, interrupting him. If we hear of even one more incident like this, one employee refusing guests for personal or political reasons, you're done. You won't just lose your job. You'll lose your career. Mark swallowed hard. Understood. Nicholas looked over at one of the junior staff nearby. Start the process of hiring someone new to replace Avery. And this time, vet them better. We don't need activists behind the desk. We need professionals. The staff member nodded and disappeared down the hallway. Karoline turned to Avery one last time. You're not a victim, she said, voice calm but unwavering. You tried to play gatekeeper in a place that wasn't yours to control, and you got caught. Avery's voice cracked. You'll regret this. The left won't just let this go. I have my rights. I was trying to do what's right. Nicholas shook his head. Doing what's right means treating people with respect, even when you disagree, not deleting them from the system. And now, Karoline added, you're no longer part of it. Tears welled in Avery's eyes. She turned and rushed toward the back room, disappearing behind the doors as the lobby echoed with hushed murmurs and a few scattered claps. The crisis had passed, but the ripple effect was only just beginning. If you're still with us, thank you for watching, and if you haven't yet, subscribe now to help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Your support means everything as we continue sharing bold stories that challenge the narratives and remind us what real accountability looks like. As the energy in the lobby began to settle, Nicholas looked at the employee who had gone to fetch Mark. Where's the manager now? He asked quietly. He's back in his office, the young man said. Said he's reviewing policies. Karoline raised an eyebrow. We'll see. She walked toward the elevator with Nicholas beside her, the crowd slowly dispersing behind them. But as they stepped into the quiet lift, her mind wasn't at ease just yet. There were still lessons to teach and policies to change. Not just in one hotel, but across the entire chain. The elevator doors closed with a soft click, sealing Karoline and Nicholas inside a private world away from the curious stares and recording phones below. For a moment, neither spoke. The hum of the elevator filled the silence. Karoline turned, arms crossed, her eyes burning with focus. Avery was a symptom, she said flatly. Mark is the problem. Nicholas glanced sideways. I know. He let this happen. He watched this hotel get politicized and did nothing until we walked in. Nicholas exhaled slowly. I gave him one last shot. But if he fails again, he's done. Karoline stepped to the side of the elevator, her voice low and razor sharp. I'm not going to let your reputation, or mine, be dragged through this again. We didn't build our careers by letting people like Avery decide who's worthy. The elevator opened onto the penthouse level. The suite they entered was a portrait of elegance. Polished walnut floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A quiet bar in the corner stocked with Nicholas's favorite whiskey. Everything looked calm, except for the fire in Karoline's eyes. Nicholas poured 2 glasses. Karoline took hers, but set it down after one sip. She paced toward the window, looking out over the now-dimmed lobby below. I don't want to waste energy cleaning up every mess Mark lets happen. This hotel is the flagship. What happened down there could have destroyed us online. Nicholas joined her by the window. You're right. What do you want to do? Karoline turned, eyes locked on him. We overhaul the staff, tighten hiring, lay down new rules. And I mean real rules. He raised an eyebrow. Go on. I want a new policy across all Rio Grande properties, she said. Any staff member who denies service based on political bias or personal judgment is terminated. No second chances. No gray area. Nicholas took another sip. Harsh. Clear, Karoline corrected. Not harsh. And I want oversight. Mark doesn't just report to a regional manager. From now on, he reports directly to you. And I want someone watching him from the inside. You have someone in mind? Karoline gave a slight nod. One of my old Washington aides. Someone who understands chain of command. Someone who's dealt with more hostile press than Mark's ever seen. They'll keep order. Nicholas's lips curled in quiet approval. You play tough. I play fair, she said. And fair is exactly what Avery wasn't. She picked up her phone and opened her notifications. Hundreds. Maybe more. The first post she saw came from a conservative account. Karoline Leavitt takes down a woke hotel receptionist. Receipts in hand. Fired on the spot. This is real leadership. The next, a liberal one. Avery was fired by Karoline Leavitt for defending her values. This is oppression, plain and simple. She scrolled, reading both praise and outrage. Another post. She refused service. Got caught. Got fired. End of story. And one more, angrier. Cancel Rio Grande. Boycott the chain. Fire the husband, too. Karoline shook her head, smiling faintly. They're already spinning it. Nicholas walked over, glancing at her screen. Of course they are. That's the game now. Perception over facts. Karoline tapped through to the system log she had saved, screenshotting it again, just in case. I have the truth. I have the receipts. Let them scream. Nicholas sat back in one of the leather armchairs, eyes fixed on her. Want to go public with it? I already planned to, Karoline said. But not just to defend myself. To remind people that we don't cave to mob narratives. I'll write a statement, post it with the evidence, and let the people decide. He nodded slowly. Then we make it official. She looked over at him, eyes blazing. This isn't just about Avery, or even Mark. It's about a larger message. Nicholas leaned forward slightly. What message? Karoline smiled coldly. That if you try to use your job to punish others for disagreeing with you, there's a cost. And from now on, that cost is clear. The fire in her voice was unmissable. Not rage, not ego, clarity, conviction. Nicholas raised his glass. To clear rules, he said. She lifted hers. To consequences. The clink of their glasses echoed softly in the suite. Karoline picked up her phone again and began typing a draft of her post. I booked a room under a private name. A hotel employee discovered who I was, didn't like my politics, and deleted my reservation. That's not resistance. That's discrimination. She was fired, not for her beliefs, but for abusing her job. This is about fairness, truth, and yes, consequences. Hashtag accountability. She hit save, but didn't post it just yet. I'll give it a few hours, she said. Let the noise build first. Nicholas nodded. And when you post it, they'll see the truth laid out in black and white. A quiet buzz came from Karoline's phone, another notification. A video, uploaded by a guest in the lobby, was already going viral. It showed Avery's confrontation, Karoline's calm replies, and the moment Nicholas arrived and ended it. The caption read, "She came in with class, left with justice." Karoline Leavitt shuts it down without raising her voice. Karoline watched it play through. In her face, there was no gloating, only resolution. This is what leadership looks like, she murmured. You don't scream. You don't flinch. You come with proof. She set the phone down and looked up at Nicholas. We can't let this hotel, or any part of your chain, become another ideological battlefield. We're not running campaigns. We're running standards. Nicholas nodded. And we start enforcing them tomorrow. If you're still with us, thank you for following this moment by moment. Stories like this are bigger than politics. They're about the values we bring into our work, our lives, our choices. And if you believe in accountability and fairness, take a moment and hit that like button and be sure you're subscribed. We're getting closer to our goal of 1,000 subscribers, and every voice helps keep the truth alive. The early morning light had barely touched the windows when Karoline sat up in bed, her phone already in hand. Notifications continued to pour in, clips, reactions, hashtags spreading like wildfire. She wasn't surprised. The night before had been quiet only in sound. But online, it had been loud. Loud with opinions. Loud with distortions. Loud with spin. She sat at the desk near the window and opened the X app. Her draft statement was still saved. Her fingers hovered above the post button for a moment. Then, without hesitation, she tapped it. Instantly, the tweet went live. I booked a room under a different name. An employee discovered who I was, didn't like my politics, and erased my reservation. She wasn't fired for her views. She was fired for using her job to punish someone she disagreed with. That's not progress. That's bias. I came with proof. She left with consequences. Hashtag fairness matters. She refreshed once. 12 likes. Then 24. Then 100. Replies began flooding in. Some supportive, some furious. Nicholas stepped out of the bathroom, adjusting his cufflinks, his voice calm. You posted it? I did, Karoline replied. Let the facts speak. He walked over to her, reading the screen over her shoulder. That's a clean strike. Evidence first, commentary second. They'll have a harder time twisting it. Some still will, Karoline said. But the ones who matter will see it. She tapped on a new video posted by a user named PatriotMike76. The caption read, "This is how it's done. Karoline Leavitt handles a woke gatekeeper with class and facts." The clip showed her calmly presenting the system log, Avery trembling, and Nicholas delivering the line that ended the debate. You're done. Thousands of views. Comments like, she handled that like a pro. Finally, someone stands up to this nonsense. Avery got what she deserved. Then, like clockwork, came the backlash. A left-wing influencer reposted it with a caption. Karoline Leavitt uses her power to silence a working-class woman for standing up to oppression. This is conservative dictatorship in action. Karoline rolled her eyes. Of course. They'll always make the loudest one the victim. Nicholas sat down beside her, scrolling through the flood. They're trying to make her a martyr, he said. But I have the log, Karoline replied. They can twist the headlines, but they can't change the facts. She opened another post. This time, a clip of Avery leaving the lobby in tears, the crowd parting as she rushed out, captured by someone standing near the elevators. The caption read, "She was fired on the spot by Karoline Leavitt. All because she stood her ground." Karoline sat back. See what they're doing? They cut out the part where she deleted my booking. Now it's just her crying and me looking power-hungry. Nicholas leaned forward. You want me to get legal involved? No, she said. Let them talk. Let them try to twist it. I'll let the full footage speak louder than their edits. She opened the message app and texted Josh. Send the full, unedited security footage. Lobby cam. Audio included. Josh replied within a minute. Already sent to your inbox. Timestamped. Labeled. Clean audio. Karoline downloaded the file, saved it to her drive, and began uploading it to her public account. For those asking for context, here's the full lobby footage. No edits. No spin. See for yourself. She hit post. By the time the file finished processing, her earlier tweet had passed 6,000 likes. And climbing. Let them scream into the void, she said, watching the clip autoplay. They'll lose traction the longer the facts stay on the table. Nicholas nodded in quiet agreement. This could have become a headline, he said. Instead, you controlled the story. I didn't just control it, she said. I redirected it. She leaned back in her chair, voice calm now, even reflective. I've seen this tactic too many times in Washington. They frame a moment, crop it, give it a hashtag, and create a villain. Until the villain fights back, Nicholas added. She gave a small smile. And brings proof. The buzz of her phone continued nonstop. Supporters reposting her video. Conservative news outlets writing headlines like, Karoline Leavitt, the calm storm who ended the woke circus at her husband's hotel. Opposition voices were just as loud. The rise of authoritarian chic. Why Karoline Leavitt's hotel takedown should scare us all. She clicked into the comments again. Most were predictable. Some are thoughtful. But one stood out. It came from a woman named Grace, whose bio read, teacher, single mom, independent. I don't even agree with your politics, but you handled that better than I would have. You stayed calm. You had proof. That's what we need more of. Karoline stared at the message for a long second, then bookmarked it. That's the audience I want to reach, she said. The people who don't have to agree with me, but respect how I fight. Nicholas raised his glass. And how do you plan to fight next? Karoline turned back to her phone. I'm going to use this moment to clean house, not just at this hotel, but across the brand. I want new protocols in place. Training. Accountability. Nicholas nodded. Say the word. Karoline stood and walked toward the window again. I'll draft a brand-wide directive, but I want it to come from both of us. A joint message. No politics, just principle. This isn't about left or right. It's about standards. He rose and joined her. We can call it a guest integrity pledge, he offered. Neutral language, but firm. No ideological favoritism. Just respect. She nodded slowly. And I'll handle the rollout. One video. One press statement. No spin. No apology. Just the truth. Nicholas smiled. Sounds like a plan. If you've been following this far, we appreciate you. This story's not just about what happened at a front desk. It's about what kind of culture we create in our workplaces, our communities, our lives. If that resonates with you, hit the subscribe button now and be part of our journey to reach 1,000 subscribers. Stories like this matter. Let's make sure they're told right. 2 days later, the Rio Grande lobby was back to its usual rhythm. Polished marble gleaming, soft jazz echoing off the walls, and a steady stream of guests checking in without a second thought. But something beneath the surface had changed. Behind the front desk, a new receptionist stood, professional, focused, polite. No headphones, no activism, just service. In a manager's office, Mark Hensley reviewed the new staff policies that had arrived via email that morning. His hands shook slightly as he reread the first paragraph. No employee may refuse service to any guest based on personal, political, or ideological disagreement. Any such incident will result in immediate termination. Our properties exist to serve, not to judge. At the bottom, 2 signatures. Nicholas Rio, CEO, Karoline Leavitt, Strategic Advisor. There was no room for misinterpretation. Karoline and Nicholas hadn't just handled a moment. They had set a standard. In a press conference held from the suite, private boardroom, Karoline delivered a calm but firm message to the press. We didn't fire someone because they believed something different. We fired someone because they used their job as a weapon. There's a difference between being vocal and being vindictive. The media couldn't twist that line, not without looking ridiculous. Some still tried, but the backlash had already begun to lose steam. The full footage, the log entries, and Karoline's composed handling of the situation had neutralized the outrage machine faster than anyone expected. And in the days that followed, something unexpected happened. Guests returned to the Rio Grande. Bookings rose, and a hashtag that started as an attack, hashtag Justice for Avery, quietly faded, replaced by a new one rising from supporters. Hashtag Service Not Soapbox. It wasn't just a slogan. It was a principle. Across the country, other hotel chains quietly reviewed their own policies. Emails leaked, revealing executive teams asking the same question. Do we have a Karoline situation waiting to happen? That ripple effect? Karoline expected it. She'd seen it in politics. She'd seen it in media. And now she was seeing it in business. Later that week, as she walked through the lobby with Nicholas, a woman approached them. Mid-40s, casual blazer, suitcase in tow. Mrs. Leavitt? She asked softly. Karoline paused. Yes. I just wanted to say, I saw the video. I work in HR, and I've been struggling with similar stuff in my company. Watching how you handled it, calm, With evidence, I showed it to my team. We're rewriting our conduct policies next week. Karoline gave a warm nod. I'm glad it helped. The woman smiled and continued on toward the elevator. Karoline looked at Nicholas. That's what I care about. Not the noise. Not the spin. Just one person deciding to raise their standards. Nicholas slipped his hand into hers as they walked forward. You raised the standard for all of them. She paused, taking one last look back at the front desk. Clean, efficient, quiet. Exactly as it should be. Then they stepped into the elevator together. And as the doors closed, Karoline didn't feel like she'd want to fight. She felt like she'd restored order. Because in a time when outrage spreads faster than truth, calm conviction still holds power. So what can we take away from this? Sometimes, leadership isn't about shouting the loudest. It's about staying composed under pressure, presenting the truth, and standing for what's right even when it's hard. Avery believed she was taking a stand, but she made the mistake of confusing personal belief with professional responsibility. Mark believed silence was safety, but he learned that avoiding conflict doesn't prevent it. It only guarantees that the conflict grows. Karoline didn't win because of her name, or her influence, or her politics. She won because she stayed focused. She brought evidence, and she knew the difference between confrontation and control. We hope this story reminded you that in a world of spin, truth still matters, and that standing your ground with grace is one of the most powerful things you can do. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers so we can keep bringing you stories that matter. And if you're ready for another powerful moment of accountability and justice, go ahead and click the card on your screen now to watch our next story. You won't want to miss it.